Hi, everybody. It's Susan Phelps,
And Judy Atari.
and we are your Berkshire Hathaway Florida Realty real estate information specialist slash realtor slash, gosh, Judy, we could go on and on, right? But we're not going to do that today because Judy has put together a great slide presentation about hurricane preparedness. We're in the season, and we know that people that are moving down here or people that have just moved here are a little nervous about hurricanes. So we want to give you the best information that we have to share. So don't go away, and subscribe
And like,
and comment below. We'll be right back. And we're back. So, hurricane preparedness, there's a lot to it. So, if you are taking notes, that's great. Or you can actually just check out the YouTube channel and it'll be living there for your reference.
yeah, we'll have
So, Judy, let's jump in here.
definitely. And I wanted to give a shout out to Matt Myers from Manatee County Emergency Preparedness. A lot of the information I've included here came from him. He did a recent presentation at the Parrish Civic Association.
Nice.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay. And all of this applies to both our counties or just really anywhere that's in a hurricane zone.
Right. And a lot of
Good.
this too applies if you're going to evacuate or stay back, shelter in place. And it can handle, it'll be important for other emergencies as well.
Right.
So we're
Okay,
going to
take it away, Judy.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the emergency preparedness resources. Know your level. Should I evacuate or not? Do I stay where I'm at home? What to do before, during, and after a storm. How to prepare your emergency kit. Financial prep and documentation. That's a good idea to think about. And planning for kids and pets. We're going to have these listed at onto the video here, but mymanatee.org/emergency is where you'll find our emergency communications center. Learn your level. We're going to talk about that. Building your disaster kit. Here's some ideas. And also on your phone, there is an app for both Manatee Sheriffs and Sarasota Sheriffs. And you'll get alerts, you'll get weather alerts, or if there's other emergency information they need to get out, your phone will ping. And I have both on my phone because I'm in both.
Oh, sure. Me too.
So here's the links for Sarasota Emergency Management. Learn your evacuation level for Sarasota, and then other information. So, but we'll have all that listed below. Each county does have an emergency operations center that they'll move inland and kind of camp out in. So just that you know that they've got a great plan.
Yeah, and they live there.
Right. They once they go in, they don't come out. So I thought this was a great little phrase that Matt Myers used. Should you leave your home? And he said the guide is that you run from water and hide from wind. So if you're going to be close to the storm surge or potential of storm surge, you need to get out of there. If you're more inland in a really safe structure, stay put. So that's a really good guide. One thing I thought was interesting, 75% of hurricane fatalities come from water, half of those from storm surge. So all that devastation we saw in Fort Myers and some other areas, a lot of it was storm surge.
Right.
He said the two reasons you evacuate, you're in a storm surge zone or you are in a modular or manufactured home. No matter how inland you are during these storms, if you're in a manufactured home, you need to go to a safer structure. So what did you do for Hurricane Ian?
You know, we are, even though we are in an X zone, we are in an evacuation zone. We're X for flood insurance purposes, but for evacuation purposes, we're in an evacuation zone. We're surrounded by a small canal, and we're only a few miles, if that, by the crow flying here right out the back window from Siesta. That storm surge is a concern for everybody in our area.
And I'm glad.
And last time, because Ian was so ominous, we did evacuate. Probably the first time in, a decade that we've actually left our home, shuttered it, battened down the hatches, and left. Didn't like it, but we did it, and it was a long stay. It was 2 to 3 days before
Yep.
we could get home. What
So,
did you do?
well, we hunkered down because we are not in an evacuation zone of any sort. And we had gotten in from a vacation, my first trip to Europe the day before, and I was sick.
That's
So we
right.
made the best of our storm prep and hunkered down.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't have time to get a lot of food or anything. So we did a quick trip to the store of what was left and went from there. But we had a lot of the things we needed from preparing
Right.
months prior.
Well, we ran from water and you hid from wind.
I hid from wind. All right. So how do you know your level? Well, there's going to be links down below and learn your level. So what these maps are showing you here, anything that's like in this salmon colored is a definite evacuation zone. Level A,
Right.
you're going to get out of there. And we're going to tell you what these storm surge zones are. Level B are these little orangey kind of tangerine colors.
Right.
You're probably going to evacuate there too. Level C, kind of iffy depending on the storm. One thing I wanted to note is a lot of hotels and stuff are in this yellow area, so they might evacuate too. So be careful if you're evacuating to a hotel. Level D is some of this green. Level E is the violet. And then you've got a lot of these little white areas where you're not encouraged to evacuate at all. And we're going to give you an example. So I used the address for the local CVS, so I didn't upset anybody's residents. And as you can see here, you get a better idea. There's some very inland sections here,
Right.
east of I-75 that are still in evacuation zone because of the Manatee River.
Right.
But there's a lot close by that don't evacuate. So this is also showing you your closest shelter, and if it's open or closed, red is closed. And then these little bags are sandbags. And you can only get a few, and you're probably gonna have to shovel the sand yourself. But if you have a door that maybe doesn't seal as well, put a tarp underneath, put a sandbag on it. But there's some ideas here. So you just type your address here, it'll pop up and it'll show you your evacuation zone.
And we can do that for all counties.
Yep. So it's a really handy tool. And these change, just like our flood zones change, we've talked about before. These might change. So be aware of things. So what these storm surge, when you know your level, is level A is an 11-foot surge. Significant, but not unusual for a storm. And it's going to affect a river too. Level B is 17-foot surge. Level C is 21. D is 26 and E is a 31-foot surge. So it's going to have to be a heck of a storm surge to topple you at level E. But what we wanted to point out was Hurricane Ian, all that damage everyone saw in the news, that was caused by a 15-foot storm surge. And that number really hit home when I saw that in the presentation.
So is that level A through E applied to the storm or the area?
I don't understand the question.
Oh, okay. Well, like level A, down the street, I can look on the pole and it says A. Does that mean that our street is possible 11-foot surge?
Correct.
Area. Okay.
Yeah. So whatever storm. And we had a storm several years ago. I think it was Tropical Storm Diane, maybe it was a D name, where we had a lot of flooding because it was one of those tropical storms that just stood over us and stayed put. And we had a ton of flooding on Anna Maria Island and Longboat Key. So, and then because of that flooding, we had storm surge. So I thought that was really interesting. All right. So should I go to a shelter? Okay, I'm going to evacuate. I've decided I'm in evacuation zone A. I need to go somewhere. One thing that I think is a big misconception is that if you evacuate, you automatically go to a shelter. My mother-in-law just moved from Texas. She was more inland. And she's like, well, don't I go to a shelter? And not necessarily. We should consider a shelter as a last resort, and it's a short period of time. So it's for 12 to 72 hours prior to a storm, and generally up to 72 hours or 3 days post-storm. A lot of times they're using schools, and school's ready to get back in session, and the people have to go somewhere else. So
right.
I liked this term that Matt used was it's a lifeboat versus a cruise ship. So if you're expecting to be comfortable and cushy and someone taking care of you, that's not happening.
No.
You're kind of just there to be hunkered down and safe and responsible for yourself.
And yourself means your own stuff.
Yep, your own stuff. So like we have here, your mattress, air mattress, maybe food and water. If you have pets, a lot of shelters do allow pets, but make sure. And they generally have to be contained. One thing I wanted to point out too is don't rely on that school or shelter to have a generator, and don't expect a lot of local hotels to have a generator or to provide you the breakfast that you normally get at the Hampton Inn. And also realize if they're an evacuation zone or not. You can use that Know My Zone and, you know, search that hotel. Are they in an evacuation zone? If I evacuate from Longboat Key, am I suddenly going to have to evacuate again? If they lose power, they might lose plumbing functions or other things.
Right.
Just to be aware of that. There are special needs shelters, which I thought was great, especially for patients on oxygen or people with dementia. These are things you need to do before a storm's ever forecast. And so investigate those from some of those resources we've linked. And also know where you're going to go before a storm is forecast. If you do have any special needs or you know you're in evacuation zone A, be prepared on that. Before, during, and after.
Well, you know, before, it's always kind of before in my house, thinking along the lines of, let's start thinking about this around February or March. And I start gathering some food and so forth. But the emergency kit and the documents, Judy's going to talk about those. And I think you have to take that seriously. Okay. So go ahead, Judy.
Oh, okay.
Finish
so
up there. Another
thing to do before the storm is to video the inside and outside of your home, preferably before you bring everything in from the lawn so you can see around your house, but inside your garage as well. Show that your car was intact and didn't have a cracked windshield. You know, have a dated video, but do a video inside and outside. It makes the insurance claim process much easier.
Much easier.
Buy gas for your generators and grills. We always try to have an extra tank on hand. And get ice for coolers early. Just put them in the cooler. Don't open the cooler. Don't touch it. But if you're going to need some ice, go for that.
We put water bottles in the freezer.
Yep.
And we don't stock up the freezer either, because if you don't have a generator, then
you're going to lose it.
Yeah, you need cold water and cold ice more than you need a steak on the grill. So
right. Yeah, and don't have to get too much dairy. But then also plan to put up your storm shutters. A lot of our customers are new home buyers, and the building manager goes through, okay, here's your storm shutters, here's the hardware, and here's what you do. And they really don't ever go through the process. Practice that. Or arrange for a handyman or a siding company or a screen company to do that. Make sure you got a plan there.
Check with your neighbors, see how they're taking care of it.
Yep. Oh, excuse me. And then share your plan. Know where you're going to go, and then tell people where you're going to go. We have a fantastic community, and we do check on each other. And then evacuate. If you're going to evacuate, don't wait too long, because the roads will be incredibly slow. And in a serious storm, they will take the north-south routes of I-75 and make them all north or all south.
Right.
They'll make two-way roads, one-way roads, and you can't get in the other direction. So just be aware of that might happen.
And hopefully you have a destination.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, we're just going to go and see where we end up.
Oh.
Pay attention to the storms. Like if they're going to, where are they going? All right. This is crucial. Stay inside during the storm and until it's all clear. Everybody wants to get a video. Everybody wants to see what's happening, but it's how you get hurt. Kind of the same rules apply as those of us that grew up in the Midwest for tornadoes. Get inside, get in your little bunker, and don't come out. Stay away from windows. I know a lot of new homes that we sell have a ton of windows, lots of natural light. Don't go near those. Close interior doors.
Even if they're wind resistant.
Yes. Even if, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to risk that. Close interior doors to limit stuff flying through them if something does break. And this is something I thought was important to share. EMS and fire rescue will not respond once winds reach 45 miles per hour or more. Law enforcement will not respond after 55-mile-an-hour winds. So if you're not feeling well, get things checked out ahead of time. I had a kidney stone once in the middle of a hurricane. That was fun.
Oh, no.
Yes, right before, and then we got home and the storm hit. That was great. So just know that we're not going to risk lives of our emergency personnel in these storms. So just know
Yeah, it makes it dangerous for everybody else too.
And then
If somebody happens to be out there with them.
Right. All right. After. So you're going to go outside and survey the damage, and you might have some trees down and things. You got to stay hydrated. Don't forget to drink fluids before, during, and after, because normally right after the storm, the air gets very still and very hot.
Very hot.
And it doesn't change for days. So be aware of staying hydrated. Drink before you think you need to drink stuff. If you're going to go on the roof, maybe you need a survey and a roof leak. Many injuries and casualties occur after the storm because somebody went on the roof or just in general. So be very careful.
That's true. Yeah.
If you're not good at that, or if you have balance issues, get somebody else to help you. Be prepared for possible water outage or water contamination, for power outages, grocery store closures, or low inventory. So as far as the inventory, trucks that deliver goods to grocery stores are going to stop a few days before if it's a really bad storm. That's what we expect. And they're not going to be back on the road for a little while either. So the warehouses that stock them are not working. So don't expect to run to the store and get everything you need the day after. And also standing water. Don't walk through standing water, and understand those dangers. And also look for down power lines. I know FPL in my area has done a great job hardening the system, putting in concrete poles and doing things. Lines still come down and are still very, very dangerous.
Well, in our new home communities, they're underground.
Right, right.
This is wonderful.
Yep.
And we'd love to see that happen in all of the older areas, but you know,
yeah,
don't
get out and drive around to video because it's cool. All right. I had some acquaintances do that. Okay. All right, big thing on generators. A lot of people come down here. I've never really operated a generator. I know I didn't own one till now. And make sure you keep it at least 20 feet from your structure, preferably 50 feet from your structure. It's a high risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. You won't see or feel it coming, and you might die. On that note, my two neighbors, the neighbor next door powered my refrigerator and his two with his generator. Guy on the corner powered 3 more refrigerators with his generator, and that's all we had them do was keep our food going and keep the light on.
Essentials.
Essentials. And that was great, not having to refill everything in a refrigerator. If you're going to use power tools, say you have a limb down, follow the safety guidelines. Don't rush. Don't do it if you're overtired. And if you don't know the power tool, wait or find somebody, again, that can help you. And then, Susan, you wanted to add this little note.
Well, the scammers, unfortunately, are out there. And it would be great to say, oh, no, you only want to hire licensed individuals. And that is really the truth. But sometimes if you're in a bind, you might find that you're going to take or accept help from anybody. But, don't let them take advantage of you. Just last year during Ian, someone came down from Georgia. They had a truckload of generators. And they went down our street and stopped and talked to neighbors, and they were going to sell them generators for 3 times the amount that he bought them for. That's a scammer.
Yes.
That's not your friend. There are opportunists out there, so you want to be careful. And if you're dealing with insurance, if you don't use the right people, the licensed people for your repairs, you may not get reimbursed for them. Oh gosh, here's
your emergency kit.
Yes, this is the basics. A gallon of drinking water per person per day, and don't forget your pets. If you have the ability to cook and wash your dishes, then in terms of heating and so forth, then keep that minimum of 7 days on hand.
Yeah, we fill up our extra bathtub if we don't have any house guests.
Right. Yeah. And we have pools, Judy.
Yes.
So I think that's a big advantage. I mean, that water's chlorinated or treated or somehow. And unless it's been um, filled with dirt from the wind or something,
Right.
that's usable water.
Yep. Can boil it.
So yeah. Non-perishable food. Now that doesn't sound so good to some people, but you may not have any power for days and days. On our little island, because it's so small, the power company comes here last. They've got hundreds and thousands of people that are without power on a particular line, and on our island maybe there's 200, so it doesn't seem as extreme to them, and I get it, but hey.
Yeah, you were out for several days with Ian.
Oh yeah, for sure. We need to have all those. If you get a generator, definitely check that generator out before the season starts. And there's something called a fuel stabilizer, because if you leave gas in a machine for too long, the particulate matter settles out, and then you turn it on and it's going to clog up your machine and it won't be of any use. So if you're going to leave any gas in your generator, put some fuel stabilizer in there and it'll keep it fresh and usable, and you'll be able to turn it on when you need to turn it on.
Or if you're like
Batteries.
me and you have a great mechanic for a neighbor, he fine tunes all the generators when the storm gets when the storm gets announced. He goes and checks everybody's generators.
Send him over here, will you? Batteries for everything.
Yep. Rechargeable batteries are great, but in a storm you can't charge them. So
nope.
Have a few batteries.
Nope. And be sure you have all of your prescriptions filled, and keep that list so that if if the pharmacy's unable to get into their computer or whatever, you've got your list. Yep. And keep those over the counter medications too.
And there was, I don't know if we call it a law or a bill, whatever. There is a law that insurance companies cannot prevent you from getting 2 weeks for emergencies. 2 weeks of your prescriptions.
Oh, okay.
Out of sync.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yep. All right. Okay. This reiterates a little bit of that.
Yeah. All of those things that you think about that are in your bathroom cabinet, you might want to have a separate bag of bathroom cabinet stuff.
Yep. And make sure the Band-Aids are still sticky. So like once a year, just touch them.
Yeah, right. And my neighbor just bought a hand crank weather radio. So I'm going to find out from her where she bought that and get one of those.
I used mine for Ian, and it was weather radio, and then also I can keep up with on FM radio what was going on.
Have a can opener. Don't count on the electric ones. And for some of us, a corkscrews comes in very handy. Yeah. You've heard of those hurricane parties, right?
Yes.
Well, they really do happen, folks.
When they all clear and you don't have power for 3 days, have a glass of wine.
Yeah, it just brings people together, and then you sit around and commiserate about how lucky you are to still have your home standing.
Yep.
And so fire extinguishers. We cleaned out our garage this past weekend, and I found 2 fire extinguishers, and one of them said empty and one of them said full. So the empty one's going to the county dump. Instant tire sealer. Tire plugs. Yeah. You might be driving down the road to go to the store or something and pick up a nail or something that's been flown around.
Yeah. And the last one was solar distress flag. It was just if you kind of don't live near a lot of people, or you don't think anybody's finding you, one of those really, if you stayed somewhere that you shouldn't have stayed, this is a good idea.
Right.
And then a few more things.
Yeah, mosquito repellent, sunscreen, just things that make sense.
Right.
Know where your plastic garbage bags are and all of your cleanup
Stuff. A little bit of bleach.
tools.
Bleach might be hard to find, so grab an extra now.
Right.
Keep it in the
right.
garage. All right.
And when you know what we did when we left last year during Ian, we put everything up out of the closets. We put everything up onto tables or onto higher shelves. And that included toilet paper and paper towels and so forth, because we really did need those when we got back.
There you go. All right. So, and then if you evacuate, we talked, you're responsible for your stuff. And we're just going to say pillows, blankets, folding chairs, games, books, cards, things to do without power, toothbrush, toothpaste, and please take some deodorant. And then we're going to talk about your documents. Financial preparedness.
Cash on hand. We put some money in the safe.
Yep. And your ATM and the internet might be down for a while, and everyone's so used to Apple Wallet and digital currency. Those aren't happening a lot of times.
Right.
This I thought was great from our meeting the other night, was documents to have on a flash drive and keep in a double Ziploc bag so it doesn't get ruined. Birth certificate, driver's license, deed to your home, car registration, insurance for home and car, and all those phone numbers, and put those on a zip drive, and then keep several copies of that zip drive, flash drive. One at home. If you have an office, keep it at office. Send one to a family member out of state. Just make sure it's password protected so they don't get nosy. And then write down and print out your phone numbers for your phone. Your phone might be cracked, dead, wet, and you might need to reach people. So those are things.
I've never thought about printing out my phone contacts.
Yeah. So I don't know how, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then your pets. I have a cat. Used to have a couple. So food, my cats eat a raw diet. And so I have canned food and I have baby food. At times of high stress, my cat stops eating. So my vet one time suggested meat flavored baby food, which he has never declined. So I have a little baby food. Water for them, medications. And I've had a diabetic cat and I've had a cat with seizures. And so I have to plan for refrigeration of those things. I just happened to have a neighbor that had diabetes as well. So he called and said, hey, we'll hold your cat's insulin. So that was great.
Wow.
Pictures of your pet. So many cats and dogs get spooked. Particularly dogs. If you have a dog that gets fluffy and then shaved, have both pictures ready, depending on the state of your dog. Cat litter, a crate or a safe place for them to hide. Immunizations, this is important. If you need to take your animal to be board or to a shelter, you need to make sure they're immunized, and you need to prove that. So have that, or have a letter of exemption if you have an older or ill pet. And then microchip. This I think is important, is to scan that microchip at your annual checkup, make sure the information is still correct. So many people have moved here. I bet less than half of them have probably updated the pet's information. So if you have a new address, different phone number, make sure that's up to date on the scan.
Okay.
And if you find one, oftentimes the fire departments can scan them too. Kids, think
they think it's fun for a minute, right?
Yeah, for a little while. But be creative, coloring books, trivia games, chalk on the sidewalk after the storm. Have them help plan and prepare. Maybe have them pick out their snacks. Don't eat all the snacks on the first day, but kid-friendly snacks. And think of mac and cheese, the kind with the cheesy packet that you don't need milk for. It's a lot easier to manage. And then their favorite pillow, blanket, or stuffy, because they often are very frightened. And extra shoes. I don't know a kid that doesn't get anywhere near a puddle that doesn't get wet. So extra shoes and stuff. So our message is prepare now. What a lot of people do, like Susan said, she starts in February, you don't want to have a big expense because the storm's coming. So, get a few items here and there with each shopping trip. Look at BOGO items. Hey, that's something, mac and cheese, those ones with the cheesy packets go on sale every once in a while. Grab a couple of those. Take stock of your canned goods. I did this in May and I had a few expired. So, every 6 months or so, look at that. And then plan for your own comfort for coffee. If you're a coffee drinker and you're suddenly not going to have caffeine, you might get a headache. So plan for coffee and comfort. Again, my neighborhood, during 2004, we had what I always call the 4 and 04. We had all those storms come through or near. One of our neighbors now has a Coleman coffee maker that you can put on the grill. So she came around after, I think it was Charlie, after one of the storms, and everybody had coffee because she had that, and we knew she had it, so we were all expecting it. But coffee, tea. I have my own MacGyver system to make my husband. I have a French press, and
Oh, sure.
even though we don't have damage, we didn't have power for a day, so I can French press coffee, and that works out really well. Just got to boil water. So we hope this made you think about stuff. I don't know if you have.
Well, Judy, you've reminded me of quite a few things that I'm going to now have to put on my list. And this is a lot of really good information. Thank you so much for putting it together for us.
And it is a ton of information that we tried to pack into a little bit of time, not to bore you to death. But remember this, bookmark this. If a storm is coming, make sure you've covered everything. Oh, right. I saw a really good tip for the pets. Somebody took just painter's tape, blue tape, wrote their phone number on it, and taped that to the cat's or dog's collar. Some put it around. So in case a tag falls off, that was another great thing. I'm like, hey, in an emergency, stick something on them, or maybe they remember where you're staying.
Double up on that ID.
Yeah. So that never hurts. But so there's all kinds of ideas out there. Just plan a little bit. Don't panic. We've gone through a ton of storms. I've lived here 20 years. I've never evacuated, but I'm inland. I'm in a secure cinder block house, block construction. And I have a new roof, so I'm in good shape. But yeah, don't go crazy.
Okay. So if anybody has any questions or comments, please put them below. And don't forget, we love to have new subscribers, and all of those likes really help with our analytics. And we love getting all of this information out there to you, and we'll keep coming. So let us know what you need. Until the next time, bye-bye.